last segment, we talked about how people with dementia often need help with their finances. In this segment, we answer some basic questions about that help. Do people get it? Where do they get it from? And what are the consequences for those that do not get it? To answer this question, we analyzed a data set called the National Health and Aging Trends Survey, or NHATS for short. The data set collects information from over 7,000 Medicare recipients. NHATS collects data on the demographics, economic characteristics, health and functioning, and caregivers of individuals in the sample. Importantly, the dataset has a lot of really useful information on people's cognitive health, like dementia screening interviews and cognitive tests, to help us identify whether or not they had dementia. The NHATS also asks people whether they have assistance with money matters, like paying their bills, or more complicated financial matters, like managing a 401k. If they have the help, the dataset asks them who exactly provides it. Finally, NHATS collects data on measures of financial hardship, like failure to pay for utilities or medical expenses. In other words, the NHATS gives us all the information we need to see who has dementia, whether they have help and who provides it, and if bad things happen when they do not have it. So let's start with the good news. Over 85% of individuals with dementia had at least some help managing their finances. This help was available whether they only had simple banking matters or if they had both simple and complicated banking matters. Who provides this help? About 40% of the time, it's a spouse. 50% of the time, it's children, and most of the remainder, some other relative. When a child is taking care of the parent's finances, 75% of the time, it's a daughter. One last bit of good news. The support actually helps. People with dementia who get help with their finances have no more financial hardship than others without dementia. Now to the bad news. 85% of people have assistance with financial management. But that leaves 15% of our population with dementia without any help with their finances, and they probably need it. Indeed, when we look at measures of financial hardship, among those with dementia and without help, we notice that they are twice as likely as those with help to have financial hardship. For example, 3% of those with dementia who receive help with their finances had trouble paying their utility bills. This number doubled to over 6% for those without help. In other words, we currently have a large group of people with dementia without assistance, and that lack of assistance makes them more likely to experience financial hardship. Now, you may be thinking that 15% does not sound like a high number. The problem is that number is only likely to go up in the future. Remember, I said that 40% of the help came from spouses and 50% from children. But more and more future retirees are arriving at old age divorced or without ever having been married. And those individuals had many fewer kids than individuals in old age today, who were the parents of the baby boomers. So, in the future, less help is likely to be available, even though there will be many more people with dementia. The other thing that's worth worrying about is the increasing complexity of finances. Today's people over age 85 often have pensions that provide them with a monthly benefit, very similar to the paychecks they have managed their whole life. The future's retirees are likely to be much more reliant on 401ks, which require individuals to pull money out of a larger pile, a new skill to learn at an older age. Back in 1983, when many of today's retirees were working, about 80% of workers with a retirement plan at their job had a pension, and only 12% just had a 401k type plan. Today, 73% of people only have a 401k type plan. So, having someone to help is only getting more important. To summarize, in the future, we're going to have more older people, which means more people with dementia, which means we will need more financial caregivers. The good news is, today, most people with dementia have help. The bad news is that those without help are experiencing financial hardship. Perhaps even more concerning is that the shortage of caregivers is likely to be exaggerated in the future, as people arrive at old age with fewer spouses and children at the exact same time people have more complicated finances. All of this means it's probably time for our policymakers and financial institutions to start thinking about what they can do to help make more financial caregivers available, and to make sure that individuals' accounts are protected when that help isn't available.